Okay, so uh, getting right into it, things in Kenya are getting a little bit messy.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, so we're going to do a deep dive into all this today and try to figure out what's going on, protests, allegations of abductions. Things are pretty tense in Nairobi.
Definitely a lot to unpack.
Yeah, and we're looking at a Reuters article from December 30th, 2024 that, gives us a glimpse into what's happening there on the ground.
It's a complex situation for sure, and as you said, it's a rapidly changing situation.
Yeah, we've got, reports of tear gas protesters chaining themselves together, and even a prominent opposition figure, Okia Umtata, is in the thick of it.
And at the heart of all of this is a really serious accusation
Yeah.
that the Kenyan government is involved in abducting its own critics.
So what are people actually protesting about? I mean, what's the core issue here?
So the core issue is the alleged disappearance of dozens of people
Yeah.
who've, spoken out against the government. And human rights groups are claiming that the Kenyan police and intelligence services are behind this.
Wow.
Essentially, they're saying that they're grabbing people without any sort of legal process.
So, extrajudicial arrests, is that what they're calling it?
Yeah.
Taking people into custody without following the rules?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what they're alleging.
Mm.
And obviously, it's a very serious allegation.
Right.
And of course, the Kenyan government completely denies any involvement
Of course.
in abductions or extrajudicial killings, but, that hasn't stopped the protests.
Right.
The protests are gaining momentum.
So can you kind of paint a picture of what's happening in Nairobi right now? I mean, what's it actually like there?
Well, imagine a city that's full of young people,
Yeah.
but instead of celebration,
Right.
it's filled with this palpable tension.
Wow.
You see young people marching there as thick with tear gas.
Wow.
There are small groups staging sit-ins, and you can just hear these chants against the government echoing through the streets.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
It is.
And, we saw that image of Tata, the lawmaker, chaining himself to other protesters.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think was going through his mind?
Well, I think it was undoubtedly a calculated move to draw attention
Yeah.
to the issue. I mean, he's known for his really bold stances
Yeah.
against the government. And I think this act of defiance really underscores just how deep his concern is.
Absolutely. And what happened to him?
He was detained by police along with 10 other protesters.
It's really intense, and it reminds me of similar situations, that we've seen in other countries.
Right.
Where economic hardships kind of spiral into crackdowns on dissent.
Yeah, that's a really insightful connection. And these current events are actually part of a larger wave of anti-government protests that began back in June of this year.
Right. I remember those proposed tax hikes.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
caused such a stir.
Exactly. They really caused a stir, and that was kind of the initial spark.
So initially it was about, economic grievances,
Right.
but it's become something much bigger now.
Yeah, it's morphed into something much bigger.
Yeah.
Those tax hikes were just the spark that ignited a much larger fire, and now the protests have really morphed into this broader movement that's pushing back against the government and its policies.
So what are the larger implications here? What does this tell us about the state of democracy in Kenya?
Well, I think this situation is a stark reminder of just how fragile democracy is, not just in Kenya,
Right.
but globally. When a government is accused of silencing dissent through forced disappearances,
Yeah.
it raises some very serious concerns about its commitment to democratic principles.
Yeah. It's a chilling thought.
It really is. And it underscores the importance of things that we often take for granted.
Yeah.
A free press, a strong civil society,
Yeah.
and the right to peaceful protest. These are the cornerstones
Yeah.
of any healthy democracy. And when those are threatened, I think we should all be concerned.
Absolutely. So to wrap things up, we've got this clash in Kenya between protesters who believe that their government is resorting to these extreme measures
Right.
to silence critics, and a government that's denying these claims.
Yeah.
But this situation really speaks to something much larger.
It does. It absolutely does. It compels us to consider this delicate balance between maintaining order
Right.
and protecting individual freedoms. How do we ensure that governments are held accountable for human rights violations while also respecting their right to govern? It's a complex question
Yeah,
with no easy answers.
for sure. Well, this is definitely a situation that deserves more attention from all of us, and we encourage all of you listening to learn more, consider different viewpoints, and think about what this all means for Kenya's future and for the global struggle for human rights and democracy.
Yeah.
What we're seeing here is really a microcosm of the challenges facing democracies around the world.
I think that's a great way to put it.
So that's it for our deep dive today.
Until next time.
See ya.